I study social inequality, social certification, and also quantitative methodology, mostly on causal inference. And I spend most of my PhD time trying to figure out what are the best ways of using causal inference to study social inequality. And today I want to share with you a couple, very briefly and on a very general level, about some of the thoughts I've been having for the past couple of years. So this is what everybody is familiar with. This is what I think 90% of us do 90% of the time. This is actually what I teach the undergraduates this semester, is how to do quantitative research. Is that we have an independent variable, we have a dependent variable, and then we have some kind of measure of how they are associated with each other, most commonly using a linear regression model. We may be studying how having more money will make you happier. Or this is one of my research, is how getting a good education gets you to better occupations. Or maybe how playing video games will make people criminals. But anyways, this is what we do most of the time, is that we have an independent variable, we have a dependent variable, we got a bunch of data, and we try to analyze how they are associated with each other. And then something happened in, I would say, approximately 1980s, is that people are unsatisfied with studying associations anymore, and they start to question the issue of causality. So so the fact that the two variables are associated with each other does not mean that we can draw a valid causal inference, because there could be a lot of confounding factors that are driving the correlation. This is one major intellectual step in quantitative social research, is from the study of independent and dependent variable to the study of cause and effect. So for instance, we know that richer people are in general happier. It may have nothing to do with the fact that they have money. It may simply be that they come from a happy family. So they may enjoy their family life, which would get them a more successful professional career, but also will make them satisfied with their life. Or maybe we know that the better educated people have landed in better occupations, but it may not suggest that going to college actually helps. It could simply be because that those who go to college are smarter people, and smarter people are likely to have good jobs. So anyways, so those are all extremely well known. So we have marched from the study of the independent and dependent variable to the study of cause and effect. And this is something I've been trying to advocate along with a couple of colleagues in sociology and also across other disciplines, is something of a more general framework that also applies rigorous causal logic, but studies a broader set of research questions. So it's a matter of research design, or the way of imagining the possibility of the research questions that we can answer. So what we are trying to figure out is basically moving from the study of the cause and effect, that is a causal effect of a single variable on another variable, to what we would call intervention and consequence. So the intervention does not have to be a single variable for an individual, but could be the association of two or probably more variables. And the consequence as well does not have to be one single variable, but also could be the association or the joint distribution of two or more variables. So we are moving from the study of the effect of one variable on another variable to the effect of intervening on the joint distribution of multiple variables on what's going to happen to possibly also the joint distribution of multiple other variables. So this will be a clear look. So we are replacing x here with a joint distribution of a bunch of stuff, and we are replacing the outcome here with a joint distribution of a bunch of stuff as well. And we will call what's on the left an intervention and what's on the right a consequence. So why do we need this? Why does anybody need to do this? So I'm a sociologist of social inequality, and we have this jargon called social certification, which is basically a term that we use to describe systems of inequality. So as sociologists, we do not only care about individual variables, but actually more often we care about these systems of associations that characterize the social inequality that we observe. For instance, we care about gender pay gap, that will be the association between gender and income. Racial education gap, that will be the association between race and education. Or intergenerational mobility, that will be the status between a father and a child. So we are not only interested in, for instance, how gender affects income, but also how the gender pay gap as a social phenomena would have consequences on other aspects of the society. So if we think of these systems of the associations as an intervention, we will be able to ask research questions like, what is the implication of such a system? So if we can reduce the gender pay gap, or if we can reduce or improve intergenerational mobility, what good that may have on the society? Or we could ask what is causing these systems of inequality? So what is causing gender pay gap? Or what is causing the association between father status and child status? So I'm going to give a few examples from my past research. So this is a study with my collaborator and also my PhD advisor, Yu Xie. So what we are trying to figure out here is what is the consequence of intergenerational social mobility. So it is a common complaint that we hear that poor children in our societies today just do not have that much opportunity for upward mobility. So if you are born poor, there's basically no chance for you to become a rich person when you become an adult. And another issue that we are facing is that fertility is extremely low, so people are not willing to have children. And some are hypothesizing that the fertility is low because mobility is low, because there's no prospect, there's no future, there's no promise for young people in this country, so people are not willing to have children. So this is what we try to test. Is if we are gonna have, if we could have an intervention that changes intergenerational association or improve social mobility, whether that would have an effect on fertility. So if it is more possible for poor children to become rich adults, whether there will be more children in the society, basically. Unfortunately, what we found is a null effect, so probably it is not a solution. So this is another paper that I did with my co-authors where we are interested in the racial income gap. This is the data from the United States, because apparently the racial inequality is a huge topic in the United States, and a lot of it is about the fact that white people have higher income than black people. And many people believe that the existence of racial income gap can be attributed to the fact that it's harder for black people to get into college. So it will make sense to try to test if we can equalize college access between black people and white people, whether we could help reduce the income gap between blacks and whites. So this is a series of we may call it policy simulations that we run, and it is possible, if implemented well, a policy that changes the college enrollment gap between black and white people can help reduce the income inequality between blacks and whites. How many minutes do I have?
2 minutes.
Okay. So there are a couple of different ways of simulating such an intervention. I'm going to briefly introduce 3. So what does that even mean? What does it mean to intervene so that the college gap between black and white is reduced? So we categorize interventions into 3 families. The first is that we can figure out, imagine an intervention that makes going to college completely random. So it's like a draw of lottery. We can try simulate this scenario, which would equalize college admission by race. Or this is a more realistic intervention. That is, we are equalizing based on covariates. So we are removing discriminations. So basically, we could simulate an intervention where if 2 people have the same GPA, have the same high school activity, have exactly the same background, then it should not matter whether the person is black or white. So that's a second kind of policy scenario that we simulate. And third one, this is actually what we work on the most. Right now is what we call the affirmative action type of intervention. So in this type of intervention, we are basically setting different bars for different groups. So if a social group is for a long time discriminated against, we will set a lower bar for that group, while also keeping other standards intact. Like people with higher GPA will still be more likely to go into college, but the bars are specific to each of the groups we define. So that is, with different types of interventions, you can see different types of consequences. Actually, it is the affirmative action type that will be the most effective. This is something else I did. It's a similar thing, but we're interested in whether a social reform on college admission would impact intergenerational mobility or the association between the income of fathers and income of one's own. And we're trying to figure out similar policies to affirmative action and test whether those could reduce intergenerational association or improve intergenerational mobility. So that is all I have. It's on a very general level without any technical detail. Most conventionally, we study the effect of the relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable. A couple decades ago, we're trying to transition into the focus of the cause and effect. But for social inequality, for the study of social inequality, we are trying to develop a framework that can be termed or can be thought of as a study of the effect of an intervention consequence. I guess I will conclude here, and thank you for your attention.